Hello everyone, this is part 33 of What If Naruto's mother was Tsunade Senju, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Previously on Hope of the Senju clan. Once the bird had left, the Sandaime opened up the slip of paper and read what was on it. But as soon as he did, the Sandaime's face turned ghostly white and he found his hand shaking slightly and his knees going weak. The note only had 3 words on it, and yet it had a paralyzing effect on the fabled Kami no Shinobi, god of shinobi, and filled him with such fear and dread, that he needed to sit down. As the Sandaime tried to digest what he had just learned, the old Hokage knew what this meant for Konoha and how it placed the village in far greater danger than anyone realized. Kami help us all, the Sandaime thought as he glanced down at the note again, which simply said, Uchiha Madara lives. Owagakur. Sitting in his office, nursing the migraine that was slowly beginning to form in his head, the Sandaime Chushikage, Ryotenban no Onoki of both scales, finished reading the reports he had received from his granddaughter Kuretsuki and her partner Akatsuki. I'm getting too old for all this shit. The elderly Kage thought to himself, before looking up at his son Kitsuki, who was sitting in front of him. 1. Is it as bad as Kuretsuki said? Worse, replied the aged Kage, remembering when Kuretsuki and Akatsuki returned from their mission in Konoha. After returning to Iwa, the two of them came racing into his office, ranting about Suna betraying Konoha and the Senju heir drawing water from plants and the air and creating trees. It was only after he got the two to calm down and start from the beginning that he got a better understanding of what happened during the Chunin exam. When the Chushikage learned of Suna's betraying Konoha and joining with Otogakur, Hidden Sound, to attack the Hidden Leaf, he was pleased, believing that it presented an opportunity for his village. Not only to revenge the defeat at the hands of Konoha in the Third Great Shinobi World War, but also to expand their influence and perhaps finally replacing Konoha as the strongest of the shinobi nations. But his mood almost immediately shifted when Kuretsuki told him of the abilities Naruto showed during his battles in the finals. At first Onoki was skeptical of his granddaughter's tale, but with Akatsuki backing her up, he was forced to admit that what she said might be true and had them both write up a detailed report on what they saw in the Chunin finals. He also had his spies send him a report on what happened in Konoha. After reading both reports, Onoki was finally forced to admit that Naruto possessed the legendary bloodline limit of his ancestor, the Shodai Hokage. It's not enough that he possess his mother's monster's strength and the Nadaime Hokage's talent for Suten Jutsu, but to have Mokuton as well. Just what sort of freak of nature did that brat Tsunade give birth to? So it's true then, Senju Naruto possesses the bloodline limit of the Shodai Hokage Sama. Yes, grumbled the irritated Onoki, and if that wasn't enough, it would seem that Brat has also inherited the Nadaime Hokage Sama's talent for Suten Ninjutsu. Allowing him to draw moisture from both their air and plants, he also seemingly has an unnatural talent for Futon Ninjutsu, where during his battle with Kumo's Jinchuriki, he created a wind version of the Hyuga clan's famed Kaiten, Revolving Heaven. After only witnessing it a few hours ago, when he fought a member of the clan. Impossible, cried a stunned Kitsuki, no child could do such a thing. It would take years of training, for even the most gifted of shinobi, to do that, if it's even possible. Not only is it possible, replied the short Kage, it's true. Our spies in Konoha have confirmed Kuretsuki's story. After learning that what his daughter had said was true, Kitsuki could only stare at his father in stunned disbelief, still not fully believing it. But after a while, he was finally forced to accept the truth. Do we know Konoha's current level of strength? Not exactly. Both Konoha and Suna have suffered some damage to their forces and Konoha has suffered a great deal of damage to the village itself. But we do not yet know how weakened they are. The only thing we know for certain is that Konoha was able to push Suna and Oto's forces out of their village and inflict heavy losses on them. Shortly after Suna surrendered, and announced that they had been tricked by Orochimaru, who disguised himself as the Yondaime Kazekage after secretly killing him and his guards. Tesk, scoffed Kitsuki with disgust, I always said Suna was full of idiots, the fact that they couldn't tell that their own leader had been replaced proves it. HMF, grunted the Choikikage, who just nodded in agreement. I have also learned that both Konoha and Suna are now in talks and are trying to reform their previous alliance. Furthermore, there is a rumor that Kiri is trying to form an alliance with Konoha as well. Then we have to attack now, before Konoha can form an alliance with either of them, or worse, both of them. Stated Kitsuki. We will, but not yet. I won't make the same mistake Suna and Oto made, and underestimate Konoha, especially since they are about to have a new Hokage. A new Hokage, repeated a confused Kitsuki. It seems Sarutobi has finally decided to retire, and from what I have heard, it would seem that he has selected his former student Senju Tsunade to take his place as the Godime Hokage. Frowning at the news, Kitsuki knew that this complicated matters. What should we do then? First we must gather more intel on Konoha and probe the defenses. Even if they reform their alliance with Suna, it will be a while before both villages are at full strength. The same can also be said for Kiri. Given what our spies have told me, Kiri's military strength has been weakened from the constant infighting. Also, continued the Chushikage, I have an important mission for you. What sort of mission? A mission that involves that brat Senju Naruto, answered Onoki. I want you to select a team to capture or kill him. Also, given the boy's bloodline limit and abilities, I am placing him as a B rank threat in our bingo book, with an engage with caution warning. With all due respect, isn't that a little extreme? He's only a boy. A boy, who not only possesses one of the most powerful bloodline limits in existence, but who also defeated 2 Jinchuriki all on the same day, an angry Onoki retorted. If that brat is already this powerful, imagine what he would be like in 10 or 20 years' time, when he fully matures. Not to mention in 40 years' time, we could be facing an entire family of Mokuton wielders. But if we kidnap or kill the boy, his mother would more than likely have Konoha declare war on us. I would rather have us fight Konoha now, where we would at least stand a chance, than face the second coming of a shinobi like Senju Hashirama, later on. Besides, if we can somehow capture the boy, the benefits later on would outweigh the short-term costs. Nodding in understanding, Kitsuki silently thought about who he would choose for the mission. His 2 best candidates were of course his daughter Kuretsuki and Akatsuki, who were not only skilled shinobi, but had watched the Senju air battle and knew how he fought. It won't be easy, we would have to wait until he is outside the village to even have a chance. But even then it is likely his mother will have one or more of Konoha's top shinobi watching over him. I am aware of that and will have our spies try and monitor his movements and wait for an opportunity when he is outside the village on a mission. Nodding again in agreement, Kitsuki then asked his father if he had a picture of the Senju heir, wanting to at least know what his target looked like. When the Chushikage showed him a picture of Naruto, he of course saw the resemblance between Naruto and the Yondaime Hokage. He had faced the man once before, during the Third Great Shinobi World War, and barely escaped with his life, although he lost his entire platoon to him in the process. I have to admit the resemblance between him and Kiroi Senko, Yellow Flash, is uncanny. If didn't know any better I would swear the two were father and son. Impossible, scoffed the Sandaime Chushikage, there is no way he and the boy's mother would get together. If they had, we would have known about it. Not even Konoha could keep something like that hidden. Agreeing again with his father, Kitsuki just nodded, since the idea the Yondaime Hokage and Tsunade having a child together was ludicrous, not to mention frightening, since there was no tell how strong their child would be if such a union happened. After accepting the mission, Kitsuki quickly left the room, leaving his father alone in his office, where the old Kage looked down at the spare photo he had of Naruto, and like his son, remarked on how similar Naruto was to the Yondaime Hokage. A man, who was feared, hated and respected by the majority of the Iwa, given the large number of their shinobi he had killed during the war. Even the Sandaime Chushikage had to grudgingly respect the former Hokage, since he fought the younger man once before and was nearly killed by him thanks to his famed Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. Eventually, after a few more minutes of staring at Naruto's photos, he put it away, since he had better things to do. But before doing so, he made a mental note to later have his intelligence unit investigate the identity of Naruto's father. He didn't like have gaps in information, especially on a possible threat to his village. Sunagakur. In the heart of the desert of Kase no Kuni, Wind Country, fortified by high walls of rock, was Sunagakur, Hidden Sand Village, home of the shinobi of Suna. Things hadn't been going well for the village hidden in the sand lately. They were still rebuilding their forces after the failed invasion on Konoha with Otogakur, Hidden Sound Village. However, it wasn't totally their fault. Their Kazekage had been secretly replaced by Orochimaru. The bodies of the real Hokage and his guards had finally been found and the funeral had been held for him and their fallen shinobi. The village mourned the losses that had been suffered and were ashamed at how they had been manipulated by Orochimaru. In the center of the village was the Hokage mansion, the largest of all the structures in Suna, which was where the members of the Suna Council had gathered and were discussing the future of their village. In a large room with statues of all the past Hokages against one wall, there was a wide round table with all the council members sitting around it. They were discussing candidates for who the future Hokage would be and how to deal with the loss of manpower in their recent conflict with Konoha. They were in for some rough times as they had to keep up appearances that they weren't as weak as they really were, knowing that another village might decide to take advantage of their weakened state. And, like all shinobi villages, they needed the income from the people who hired them, which seemed unlikely given recent events. Those who paid well went to the villages with the most strength, and a weak village didn't get as much business, nor did it last long. Many of their remaining clients had lost faith in their skill, and were thinking of taking their business elsewhere. This was of course no great surprise to the Council of Suna. Who would trust a village of shinobi with missions, when they couldn't tell that their own leader had been replaced by an enemy and then be used to attack their own ally? But that was a matter for another time as most of the council was firmly cemented in trying to re-establish their alliance with Konoha, whom they had betrayed. Among the members of the council were the Gokyodai, honored siblings, the two most revered shinobi elders in all Suna. This showed how serious the Suna Council was taking the situation. Given how the two elder shinobi had retired and had disconnected themselves from the outside world, and rarely entered the village or attended council meetings. As the Suna Council continued to discuss the recent events, one of the hottest topics of discussion was the new heir of the Senju clan, Senju Naruto. The young genin who had defeated their ultimate weapon Gaara in single combat, and participated in the defeat of Orochimaru, when he battled his former sensei the Sandaime Hokage and his former teammates Jiraiya the Toad Sage and Tsunade the Slug Princess. I still can't believe that Gaara of all people was defeated, muttered a council member, who, like many, had believed that Gaara was unbeatable. Well, he did, so get over it, an elderly council man in robes spoke. Right now we need to focus our attention on re-establishing our alliance with Konoha. Even though they did suffer losses, they still came out on top, despite being caught off guard and being outnumbered 2-1. Agreed, said a middle-aged female council member. If we don't do something soon, we could find ourselves in a war that we can't hope to win, given our current strength. Right now, our forces have been greatly weakened and we are without a leader, while Konoha still has theirs and has 2 of the 3 Sannin with them as well. They might think we're planning to attack them again, another member said somberly. After our attack on them, I wouldn't be surprised if certain members are pushing to declare all-out war on us and wipe us out in revenge. Many of the council members nodded their heads in agreement, since it was a strong possibility. Even though most of them were certain that Sandaime Hokage would be against such action, it was possible he could be forced to, if enough people pushed for it. There were factions in Konoha that would push for war and they were led by the Sandaime's former rival, Shimura Danzo of the renowned Shimura clan. Danzo was well known to the Suna Council not only for his aggressive policies in Konoha, but also for being a formidable shinobi in his prime. He was also known for being a borderline fanatic when it came to the safety of Konoha, where he and his root division would perform less than respectable missions for the sole purpose of protecting Konoha. I still find it hard to believe that they were able to repulse the attacks by 2 villages, the same council member from earlier said. Give it a rest, said the same annoyed council member from earlier. We were led to believe that they were weak and we were proven wrong and got our asses handed to us by them. So now we have to think of a way to make a solid alliance with them. It wasn't just because we underestimated their strength, the female council member from earlier said. We also never took into account that the teams and representatives from Kiri and Kumo would assist the Konoha forces. Indeed, that is a troubling matter, spoke another female elder. Do you think it's possible that they are forming an alliance with Konoha? This comment naturally struck a spark of concern among many of the members of the Suna Council. If Konoha had indeed allied itself with both Kiri and Kumo, they would stand little to no chance of surviving should they attack. Kiri is a possibility. Ever since the coup d'état and death of the Yondai Mizukage-sama, the village's power has dwindled and allying with Konoha could help it recover. But Kumo is unlikely, a different council member answered. The Yondai Mizukage-sama is a proud man and would not ally with anyone unless he had to. Given how Kumo has one of the largest shinobi forces, I can't see them allying with Konoha, especially when you consider their long-standing rivalry with one another. But still I believe it would be in our best interest to look into the matter just in case they have. The other council members of course nodded in agreement, since it was better to be safe than sorry in the shinobi world, caution was a needed asset in their world. Well, if they really aren't allying with Konoha, why did they help them when we attacked? Asked one of the younger council members. According to the report from Baki, it seems the Mizukage-sama, Reikage-sama and the guards were drawn into the fight when their genin, who had made it to the finals, attacked both the Oto shinobi and ours, the elder replied. Really? And why would genin from Kiri and Kumo assist the shinobi of Konoha? Asked Ebizo, who was rather intrigued with the matter. Although we're not entirely certain, according to Temari-san's report from the battle, it seems that the genin from Kiri and Kumo have some kind of relationship with Tsunade-sama's son, Senju Naruto, and went to assist him, answered the elder. That brat again, a frowning Chiyo muttered, as she stared at the picture of Naruto in front of her. I still can't believe that Slug Girl of all people had her own brat. Yes, it also seems that the boy's mother is in line to become the new Godime Hokage. Given the recent battle, the Sandaime Hokage has decided to retire from his position, a council member added. She would be the perfect choice, said another female council member. Indeed, Konoha will have a new and powerful leader if she takes the position. She not only has the lineage given, how she is related to the Shodai and Nadaime Hokages, she is a legend herself. With her as a Hokage, their village will swiftly begin to recover, and we still haven't agreed on a new Kazekage ourselves, said her fellow council member as he read the reports. This is troubling, how could things have turned out so badly for us? One of the council members asked. Even with the appearance of Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama, and the involvement of both the Reikage-sama and the Mizukage-sama, we might have stood a better chance had Gaara released Shukaku in the center of the village as planned. Clearly Suna has fallen far, since we have retired, Chiyo remarked. This would never have happened back in our day. This comment of course angered many of the council members, but none of them tried to debunk her. Not only because she was a renowned and respected shinobi in their village, but also because there was a hint of truth in what she had said. Orochimaru took advantage of the desperation and desire to return to their former glory, as well as their bitterness towards Konoha, and played them like fools. Thankfully though, Chiyo's brother Ebizo intervened by changing the subject away from how Suna had been used by Orochimaru. How exactly did this Senju Naruto defeat Gaara? Welcoming the change of subject, one of the council members quickly answered. According to the reports, Gaara was injured in his match with Uchiha Sasuke and was taken away by his brother Kankuro and sister Temari to be healed. They were then followed by Uchiha Sasuke, Senju Naruto and several other genin, where he was eventually defeated by Senju Naruto, even after he released Shukaku. When the other council members heard this, many of them were naturally concerned. That still does not explain how a young boy, a genin no less, defeated a fully released Jinchuriki. Chiyo asked, who was still frowning. The boy is no ordinary genin, which should be obvious, Chiyo-sama, given his pedigree and the fact that he was trained by both his mother Tsunade-sama and his godfather Jiraiya-sama. Are you serious? One of the female council members asked, who like everyone else in the room was shocked by the news that two members of the Sannin were training one boy. They of course could understand Tsunade training him, given how he was her son. But they never expected that her teammate Jiraiya would train him as well, not to mention that he was the boy's godfather. What exactly are his skills? Asked Ebizo. At this question the council member turned to his aide, a young woman with short brown hair, and signaled her to begin her report on Naruto. According to the accounts given to us by Temari-san and Gaara-san himself, after Uchiha Sasuke could no longer damage him, Gaara-san turned on to Konoha Kaneki, who had followed after Uchiha Sasuke. But before he could kill them, Senju Naruto arrived. He then became enraged that he attacked the Konosuke and battled Gaara, where he completely overpowered Gaara with inhuman-like strength and high speed and used several water attacks to weaken Gaara's sand defense. Wait, are you saying that the boy possesses the same superhuman strength of his mother? A council member asked, who like many people, was stunned by this news. Yes, he first showed the ability during the preliminaries, where he used his immense strength to defeat another Konoha genin, the female aide answered. And before that he battled and defeated the granddaughter of Sanshuo no Hanzo, Hanzo the Salamander, and used an unknown wind technique. That according to Baki-san was at the level of a rank. He then also performed an advanced chakra flow technique to increase his sword's cutting power. How is that possible? A genin shouldn't have the chakra levels that would allow him to use techniques that high. Another council member said. We're not entirely sure, but our guess would be that he somehow possesses high chakra reserves, and has precise control over it, like his mother. Given how he is able to perform and skillfully use medical ninjutsu and use his mother's superhuman strength technique. When the aide finished, many council members frowned, even though it was no surprise that Naruto was skilled in medical ninjutsu. The fact that he could use his mother's superhuman strength and had both high chakra reserves and precise control over it was very concerning to them. Before any of the council members could make any comments to the news, the aide continued with her report. Also, according to reports, the boy is skilled in using the Araoijin no Mai, dance of the raging water goddess, Kenjutsu style, which was created by his sensei Uzumaki Kushina. Furthermore, according to Baki-san's and Temari-san's reports, the boy is able to draw large amounts of water from both the air and the surrounding plants. When the council heard this, a stir erupted among many of the members, who were astonished by the news. Wait, are you saying that the boy possesses the same high affinity for water as his ancestor the Nadaime Hokage-sama? One of the elders asked in surprise. Yes, he showed the ability when he battled the female Jinchuriki from Kumo, where he drew out large amounts of water to use some of the techniques of the Araoijin no Mai style. He then showed it again when he produced large water attacks to weaken Gaara's sand defense. But still, from reading the reports, it's obvious that his affinity is not at the level of the Nadaime Hokage-sama. But it is highly possible that he could one day reach the Nadaime Hokage-sama's level with enough training. After the aide had finished, many of the council members began to murmur amongst themselves, as they knew what this could mean. Especially if Naruto should ever reach his ancestor's skill level in Sutan Ninjutsu. After a few minutes, one of the council members signaled the aide to continue with her report. During his battle with Temari-san, Senju Naruto also showed to be skilled in Doton Ninjutsu and showed impressive tactical skills. He also showed the ability to adapt to different situations in his battle with Gaara-san and his other matches in the Chunin exam. He even found a way to counter the Hyuga clan's Kaiten, revolving heaven, technique and found a blind spot in their Byakugan, when he battled a member from the clan. Incredible, muttered one of the female council members, since to counter the Hyuga clan's famed ultimate defense was no small feat for anyone, more so for a genin. Furthermore, during his battle with the female Jinchuriki from Kumo, he revealed a futon jutsu that was based on the Hakusho Kaiten, which he created after analyzing it in his battle with his earlier opponent from the Hyuga clan. That's impossible, especially for a boy his age, said one of the younger council members in disbelief. Indeed, remarked Ebizo with an amused look on his face, as he found Naruto to be rather interesting. It was even reported that he is capable of using hand seals with just a single hand and is skilled in using fuinjutsu and genjutsu. Also, according to Temari-san, he showed the ability to perform konbijutsu, collaboration techniques, where he combined a water technique with wind and lightning to make it stronger. After hearing this, there was a great deal of excited muttering among the council. Many of course couldn't believe that a boy Naruto's age was already this skilled and powerful, especially since he revealed that he could use 4 separate nature types. Although as remarkable as all that is, the most surprising thing about the boy is that he possesses the Mokuton bloodline limit of his ancestor the Shodai Hokage-sama, the aide finished. As soon as she said this, the entire council exploded into cries of disbelief. How is that even possible? Chio cried, who like everyone else was stunned by the news. The Shodai Hokage-sama's Mokuton powers are a mutation, not an actual bloodline limit. Neither Slug Girl or anyone else in the Senju clan has ever possessed Mokuton. Clearly that is no longer the case, her brother Ebizo replied with some amusement in his voice. It seems that the Shodai Hokage-sama's blood runs true after all. No wonder he was able to defeat both Gaara and the Kumo Jinchuriki, a council member spoke. Actually, he didn't use his Mokuton bloodline to defeat Gaara. He only used his Mokuton powers to restrain and capture Gaara and his siblings, after he overpowered Gaara with his immense strange and other jutsu, the council aide explained, which made many other council members even more worried. It also stated in the reports that his Mokuton bloodline limit is a bit different from his ancestor the Shodai, where he is able to create and control plants. This is very troubling. If that boy becomes even half as powerful as the Shodai Hokage-sama, he'll become a formidable enemy, another council member said. even though he knew that Naruto had already become a formidable threat in his own right. Clearly Konoha has not only been hiding his existence, but also his abilities and have been training him secretly. I mean, until recently we didn't even know he existed, and then out of nowhere he appeared showing skills and abilities far beyond any ordinary shinobi, let alone a genin. Furthermore, he is being trained by 2 members of the Sannin, an elder council member spoke. But what I don't understand is how the boy became so skilled in Mokuton. Until him, there has never been another Mokuton user. The reason is because there is another Mokuton user in Konoha, honored council member, his name is Yamato, the council aide replied. What? Yelled many council members together. Wait, are you saying that there is another member of the Senju clan alive and possesses the Shodai Hokage Sama's Mokuton bloodline limit? Actually no, this person is not a member of the Senju clan, at least not in the traditional sense. According to Baki-san's report, during the attack on Konoha and when he was facing this Yamato person, he revealed his ability to use Mokuton, where Orochimaru's spy Kabuto revealed that before Orochimaru was forced to flee Konoha, he inserted the Shodai Hokage Sama's DNA into a large number of children in the hope recreating his power. This Yamato person was the only person to survive the experiment and possess the Shodai Hokage Sama's bloodline limit. How do you know that this is true? Asked one of the female council members. For all we know he was lying. I don't believe so, Ebizo said suddenly, gaining everyone's attention. He would gain nothing by lying about that, and it would make sense. If he really was a member of the Senju clan, Konoha would have revealed him long ago, just as they have with Tsunade's son. When the council heard this, most of the members muttered for several minutes before nodding in agreement, since it did make sense. Well, regardless, the boy is obviously a hidden ace for Konoha and they have been planning all this for a long time, one member said after thinking about all of this. There is no way that this is all one big coincidence. What are the chances that the heir of the Senju clan, who possesses the Shodai Hokage Sama's Mokuton bloodline limit, would just appear right when Konoha is hosting the Chunin exam with the last surviving heir of the Uchiha clan entering it as well? Agreed, the boy is clearly a genius. A natural talented shinobi just like his mother and his forefathers, and with Jiraiya Sama and Tsunade Sama teaching him, there's no telling how strong this boy will become. Hell, he has the Baradi Shinku no Akari, Bloody Crimson Fury, Uzumaki Kushina and the only other Mokuton user alive teaching him as well, one older council member said pointing to his copy of the reports. If what we already know of this boy is any indication, he could be the next Kiroi Senko, or worse, he could become as legendary as his ancestor the Shodai Hokage Sama. Aren't you being a little overdramatic? A younger council member asked. He's still just a boy. Of course not. The elder council member shot back. Think about everything we have just heard. The fact that Jiraiya Sama trained Kiroi Senko and Jiraiya Sama was taught by the Sandaime Hokage Sama, who in turn was taught by the boy's ancestors, the Nadaime Hokage Sama and the Shodai Hokage Sama. Not to mention the boy's mother was taught by the Sandaime Hokage Sama as well, and is the descendant of both the Shodai and the Nadaime Hokage Samis and is about to become Hokage herself. He literally has the blood of Hokages flowing in his veins. When you add all that up, and everything else, there's no telling what the boy will learn, and if he's already this strong, imagine what he'll be like as an adult. When the councilman was finished, there was silence in the room, since the thought of another shinobi as powerful as Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Konoha's Yellow Flash, or worse, as powerful as the Kami no Shinobi, god of shinobi, Senju Hashirama, was a frightening thought. Even as allies, the Kiroi Senko was a name respected and feared by many shinobi, especially those who knew or remembered the man. But as great as the former Yondaime Hokage was, the Shodai Hokage was on a completely different level, for he was a man of near mythical proportion. His prowess in battle was said to be almost fairy tale-like, much like the existence of the Rikudo Sennin, Sage of the Six Paths, which was why people often referred to him as the Kami no Shinobi. Even to seasoned veteran shinobi like Chiyo and Ebizo, the Shodai Hokage was a man to be feared and revered and was easily the strongest shinobi of his time. Stronger than his former rival and co-founder of Konoha, Uchiha Madara, which he proved on several different occasions. The most prominent being their last battle where he fought and defeated both Madara and the Kyubi no Yoko, the nine-tailed demon fox. The fact that they could be seeing a return of a shinobi of that caliber was terrifying to say the least, since no shinobi in the last 60 years had ever close to matching him. If Konoha ever decided that they were a threat, a war would erupt, which could be very devastating to them. Everyone remembered how brutally Iwa had been beaten in the last Shinobi War. I agree, spoke the council member whose aide had read the report on Naruto. Also, according to rumors, the boy assisted his mother, Jiraiya-sama, and the Sandaime Hokage-sama in defeating Orochimaru. When he revived the Shodai Hokage-sama and the Nadaime Hokage-sama with Kuchio's Edo Tensei summoning, impure world resurrection. Temari-san's and Gaara-san's reports also both state that the boy already can summon not only the toads, but also the slugs. In fact, both Gaara-san and Temari-san describe the ones he summoned, stating that both were the size of small mountains. The slug was said to be predominantly white with 3 blue streaks, while the toad was all red and had on a vest with scars on the body and carried a tanto. After reading this, there can only be one toad and slug I can think of that fits both these descriptions. The councilman of course didn't have to say the names, as everyone knew the chief of the toad summons and queen of the slug summons just by the descriptions. There weren't many summons that could even come close to their size. It seemed even more likely that both Jiraiya and Tsunade were training Naruto as their new protege, a new shinobi that could rival if not surpass Jiraiya's last apprentice, a Hokage in the making. The fact that Naruto had been allowed to sign the contracts for both the slugs and the toads, something that had been unheard of until now, clearly showed that he was already well on his way there. To think that he is this strong already and would be allowed to make a contract with 2 such summons, Chio muttered while shaking her head in disbelief. She had never heard of such a thing happening before. What sort of monster did you give birth to, slug girl? This could be bad for us, one of the older members of the council spoke, while feeling his age at the moment. If they have such a shinobi in the makings, one I might add who already has trumped our own ultimate weapon, we must re-establish our alliance with them and prove our sincerity for continued peace with them. How? We've already agreed to some restitution to help them rebuild the damage to their village. Not to mention several other terms that favor Konoha, a councilwoman, who was sitting to his left, said. Nodding his head, the council member continued, yes, but I do have an idea. It is unusual and highly unorthodox. But it might kill 2 birds with 1 stone and even be highly beneficial to us if things go right later on. What are you talking about? Simple, we put in for an alliance through marriage. You're saying you want a marriage of state? The councilwoman asked. Yes, if we can arrange this with Konoha, we can strengthen our new alliance like never before. If they agree, this new alliance will be built upon the union of 2 people from our respected villages. Both they, and any children that they may have later on, will become a symbol of unity between us and Konoha. That might work, another council member said, thinking about it. Arranged marriages after a war was common practice between nations. But for shinobi villages it was unheard of, due to fears that one village would steal secrets from another. But still it had the potential to solidify an alliance with Konoha and make sure that another incident like before wouldn't happen again. Would Konoha actually accept such an unusual proposal? There's a strong possibility they would, since I'm certain that there are many who want to avoid a war as much as we do, especially since the other villages are watching us careful for any signs of weakness. This proposal could secure a lasting peace and alliance between our respected villages. I'm also certain that the Sandaime Hokage-sama and the Konoha Council would see the benefits in agreeing to this, especially if we offer something of great value. But who should we ask for and who would we pick in return? I believe the obvious choice would be Senju Naruto. The boy is clearly strong and has a long and noble lineage. Not to mention he has become a hero to his village after his actions in the invasion, and his mother is about to become the new Hokage. After hearing this suggestion, most of the council muttered in agreement, since Naruto was indeed the ideal candidate. And who would we choose? A younger female council member asked. It would have to be someone around his age as well as someone capable and of high standing. Konoha will not let the heir to its founding clanu marry just anyone. For several minutes names were thrown out as to whom could it be, but when someone suggested Temari, it caused a bit of talk. I don't think we should give her up, someone said. She's one of our most prominent Kaneki. She's also the eldest child of the Yondaime Kazekage. Plus, if the boy is as powerful as the reports say, then any children they could have would be just as strong if not stronger. Agreed, another person said. I've also heard from her younger brother Kankuro-san. That she and the Senju are not exactly on friendly terms, due to some incident that happened between them in the preliminaries and how she lost to him in the finals. Even if that is true, Temari-san is a loyal kunoichi and would follow any order we give her, regardless of what we asked of her. Besides the fact that she is one of our best kunoichi and the daughter of our late Kazekage, shows Konoha how serious we are in making this alliance work. Not to mention what better symbol of unity can there be between our two villages, than having the daughter of the Yondaime Kazekage Sama marry the son of the new Godaime Hokage. That's why it's such a good idea and can't fail. No, it isn't. We wanted to ensure peace, not give another village a family of powerful shinobi while weakening ourselves at the same time. Hear me out, the council man said. First, it would give Konoha incentive to accept the offer, and yes, it would create that. But they would have family here in Suna, making it harder for them to fight against our village. And if the boy really does become as powerful as we think, and becomes Hokage, the marriage would create strong ties between him and our village, and we could rest easy. This made the council think on matters further, since it was possible if it did happen. Not to mention, having strong ties with a powerful and influential clan like the Senju clan was always a good thing to have, since it would be something that could benefit their village greatly in later years. It was also possible that maybe at a later time, that one of their children could be married off to someone in their own village. That way it was possible that Naruto's Mokuton bloodline limit could be passed on and be started in Suna as well. Naturally, after hearing this, the rest of the Suna council were in favor of the idea. If everything worked out the way they hoped, their village would benefit greatly. They would have a strong alliance with the strongest shinobi village, possible strong allies in the future, and perhaps stronger shinobi for them later down the road too. Once everything was settled, preparations were made to send an official proposal to Konoha at the earliest convenience. Several days later, Hokage's office. Currently sitting in his offices with several empty bottles of sake next to him, the Sandaime Hokage poured himself another saucer full of sake and took a long deep gulp. I must have truly done something horrendous in a previous life to deserve something like this. The Sandaime asked himself, as he poured himself yet another saucer full of sake to give him the courage to face what could very well be his end. It was bad enough that he had just recently learned that the most dangerous man in the history of Konoha, if not the entire shinobi world, Uchiha Madara, was still alive and possibly leading the Akatsuki. But what was being asked of him now by the council, made the old Hokage think that facing Madara wasn't so bad after all. Kind of early to be hitting the bottle, isn't it, old man? Asked the familiar voice behind the Sandaime. Turning around, the Sandaime saw his former student Jiraiya walking through an open window. I'm afraid I in no mood to talk, Jiraiya, so unless it's something important, I will ask you to please leave me be. Ouch. Nice way to greet someone, old man, Jiraiya replied, in a mocking tone. So what's up? This isn't like you. It matters little, Jiraiya. Tell me, how is Naruto doing? The Sandaime asked, since it had been 10 days since the Akatsukis attempted to capture Naruto, and the Sandaime had been concerned for the well-being of his surrogate grandson. Sighing at the mention of Naruto, Jiraiya glanced out the open window overlooking Konoha. The kid is tough, I'll give him that, but what he went through when Itachi used Tsukuyomi, Moon Reader, on him, is something no one should go through, let alone someone his age. From what he's told us, Itachi forced Naruto to watch as he systematically killed all of us, along with everyone that he cared about. After which he started over again and again for 3 days straight in that world. It's nothing short of a miracle that the kid didn't lose his mind in there. Tsunade's doing her best, and ease the effects of the genjutsu, but as you know, trauma like that takes time and never fully goes away. Indeed, replied the Sandaime with a tried sigh, poor boy. Tisk, save your sympathy, sensei, because if you ask me, that Itachi brat needs it more than the kid. If he's as half as smart as people says he is, he'll stay as far away from Tsunade as possible, since he's jumped right up to number 2 on her hit list with what he did to the kid. I swear the things she said she would do to him, after she heard what he did to Naruto. They would make even that brat Abiki turn green, finished Jiraiya, who shuddered slightly at the memory of what Tsunade said. What of Sasuke, how's he? At the mention of Sasuke, Jiraiya's face took a slightly grim look. That's a tougher call to make, that kid tends to bottle everything up inside, answered Jiraiya, who was now frowning. He knew that it was never a good idea to bottle stuff like that up, it was only a matter of time before they eventually burst out. Shortly after Tsunade woke him up from his coma, the kid left the hospital and returned to his home. Tsunade tried to get him to stay so she could monitor him more, but he refused, stating he was fine. She then later sent Shizune to check up on him, but he sent her back, telling her that he was okay. But neither you nor Tsunade are convinced that he is. The Sandaime asked, where he saw his former student shake his head. No. More than likely that kid went through a similar kind of trauma that Naruto went through in that illusion, and you never come out quite right after it. My advice is to have someone monitor that kid and see what he does. He has more reason to hate Itachi than most. Seeing him again and then being put under that genjutsu probably had a negative effect on him and it might just push him over the edge, if it hasn't already. You think Orochimaru might make another move on Sasuke? Sarutobi asked. I would be surprised if he didn't, answered Jiraiya with a large frown. It would be just like him to try and take advantage of a situation like this. Knowing Orochimaru, he would probably use Sasuke's drive for revenge for his own benefit and offer him special training and more power to help him kill Itachi. Yes, you're probably right, said the Sandaime after thinking everything over and scratched his chin. I'll have the barrier team remain on high alert and have Anbu increase their patrols around the village, just in case Orochimaru sends some of his followers to infiltrate the village and make contact with Sasuke. I'll also have Kakashi have a talk with Sasuke and keep an eye on him just to be on the safe side as well. Finding this acceptable, Jiraiya nodded and decided to move on to another matter that had him curious. So sensei, how about you tell me what is bothering you? At this the Sandaime sighed tiredly, since he didn't really want to tell, but after several more minutes of pestering from the Toad Sage. The old Hokage finally broke and decided to fill in his former student. Once the Sandaime finished his explanation, Jiraiya turned ghost white and stared at the Sandaime in disbelief. Has the council lost their fucking minds? The old Toad Sage cried. Do they have any idea what Tsunade will do to them once she hears about this? She's liable to splatter them all over the village. The council, or more specifically the elders, believe that this is the best for Konoha. But why did you even agree to this? Neither the council nor the elders have the power to do something like this. The elders found an old law written up by the Shodai Hokage-sama that allowed them to do it. After reading the law that the Sandaime indicated, Jiraiya shook his head in disbelief. Geez, it's just as well the Shodai's dead. If he was alive now, Tsunade would kill him for sure. So who's the poor sap that's going to tell her? Jiraiya asked. Because if you're looking for someone, count me out. Haim is just as likely to kill the messenger as she is the person who decided this, once she hears about it. At this the Sandaime just looked at his former student with a saddened look, indicating he was that poor soul. Sensei, don't tell me. I'm afraid so. The council believes that Tsunade might take their ruling better if she heard it from me. Ha. More likely they're hoping to use you as human shield. You're probably right. That is why I have decided to call for a general meeting of the council, and have Tsunade and Naruto attend, replied the old Hokage. Since there was no way in hell he was going to tell Tsunade, while in a room alone with her, thereby taking the full brunt of her wrath. If he was going down, he would be taking the whole damn council with him, for getting him into this mess. Hey, well that should be one hell of a show, replied Jiraiya with a smirk, before he joining his teacher in having a few drinks, believing that no one should drink alone, especially when it could be their last. Later in the council chambers. After receiving a summons from the Hokage to attend an important meeting with the Council of Konoha, Tsunade and Naruto made their way to the council chambers in the Hokage's mansion. Upon arriving they were surprised to see Sasuke waiting in front of the large double doors that lead to the council chambers. When asked, Sasuke explained that like them he had received a summons from the Hokage asking him to attend an important meeting with the council, which of course raised their suspicions. But before they could ask Sasuke anything more, the large doors to the council chambers opened. The council chamber was a large room with wooden walls and floors and rafter-like ceiling. Above on the highest parts of the walls, near the ceiling of the room were a row of small rectangular-shaped windows, which flanked the room and allowed light into it. Directly in front of them, at the opposite end of the room were the Hokage and the Konoha Council. The group was sitting behind a large long table which stretched from one end of the room to the other. Starting from the left were the heads of the 6 major clans of Konoha, the Hyuga, the Inuzuka, the Aburame, the Nara, the Yamanaka, the Akamaki and Elder Koharu. From the right were the 4 civilian council members, who represented the civilian populace on the council. After them there was the head of the Anbu division and Elder Danzo and Elder Homura, with the Sandaime sitting in the middle of the 2 sides. No sooner had the female Sannin and the 2 genin entered the large room, the large double doors behind them closed. As they walked closer to the council, the group also noticed Jiraiya leaning against the wall to their right with his arms folded and wearing a knowing look. This of course made the three even more suspicious of why the Sandaime and the council had called them here. But before they could even ponder on the matter further, their thoughts were interrupted by the Sandaime, who looked to be a bit nervous. Ah, Tsunade, Naruto and Sasuke, I'm so glad that you all are doing so well on this lovely day. Especially after that rather difficult situation last week and the time it took for you to recover and cut the crap, Sarutobi-sensei, and get to the point of this meeting. Rounded Tsunade, who was getting annoyed with how Sarutobi was avoiding telling them why they were here. Ah yes, well the thing is that, the council has come to an decision regarding Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun. What sort of decision? Asked Tsunade, narrowing her eyes in suspicion, and had a feeling that whatever it was she wasn't going to like it, especially given how nervous her former teacher was. Well, you see, the council believes that given Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun's unique status as the last male heirs of their respected clans and holders of their bloodline limits, the council has decided to, they have decided to, said the Sandaime. But no matter how much he tried, he couldn't find the nerve to say it. In his younger years he had fought countless battles without hesitation or fear, taking on shinobi of great skill and power, and yet at this moment he was petrified and didn't know what to do. Even now, as his former student stared up at him with her cold honey-colored eyes, that seemed to look into his very soul, he could not find the nerve to say the words needed. As Tsunade continued to stare at him, the old Hokage found himself sweating bullets, knowing that once he told Tsunade what the council had decided, a calamity would be unleashed onto the village. Seeing how her former teammate was struggling with telling his former student what the council had decided, Koharu decided step it. Men can be such cowards. The old woman thought with annoyance before speaking. The council has decided that given how both Uchiha Sasuke and your son Senju Naruto are the last surviving male members of their respected clans in Konoha, as well as the last wielders of their respected bloodline limits, that they are to be placed under the Clan Restoration Act. The Clan Restoration Act, repeated Tsunade in confusion, which was shared by Sasuke and Naruto. What sort of law is that? I've never heard of it. Allow me to explain, answered Homura. Before taking out a large scroll, which Tsunade recognized as the Charter of Konoha, which listed the rights and laws for civilians, regular shinobi and shinobi clans. After opening the scroll, the former teammate of the Sandaime moved his finger down, until he found the paragraph he was looking for. It is stated, that in the event of a shinobi clan, who possesses a unique bloodline limit that is vital to the continuation and security of Konoha, is on the verge of dying out, where there is only one surviving male heir and no others capable of reproducing offspring, then that heir falls under the Clan Restoration Act, which states that they must reproduce with multiple different women, so to continue his clan's bloodline and ensure its survival. After Homuru had finished, the reactions varied. Jiraiya had to bite down hard on his own lips so not to burst out laughing at the looks he was seeing on faces of the three shinobi. Sasuke's eyes widened in disbelief, where his eyes were almost as big as a Hyuga's. Tsunade and Naruto's were just as big, and their jaws literally hit the floor, but just as quickly their shocked looks turned to ones of anger. Following the announcement, the council chamber exploded with the deafening roars of the two blondes, who shouted, WWHHAATT, in perfect union, and were glaring murderously at the council members. Seeing the look the two Senju were giving them, many of the council members were unnerved with how similar the mother and son were, as both of them held the same intense murderous rage in their eyes, that spelled unholy wrath. Are you telling me that you want my son to marry multiple women, just so that he can help produce more Mokuton users? Tsunade asked angrily, daring any of the council members to answer. Whether by bravery or foolishness, Furyoku Kagato decided to answer Tsunade. Well, to put it bluntly. Yes, the nervous man replied, before he gulped in fear when the angry Tsunade stared right into his eyes. Well, you can go straight to hell, roared Tsunade, causing many of the council members move further back into their seats in fear, as they felt a massive surge of killing intent erupt from the Senju mother. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that I will let you turn my son into some sort of breeder. Tsunade, this is bigger than what you want, this is what Konoha needs, replied Koharu, hoping to get the blonde woman to see reason. Sadly though for Koharu, Tsunade was not in a reasonable mood. I don't care who it is for, he's my son, and I will not allow him to be used in any of your schemes. You tell them, Ka-chan. Naruto yelled as he backed his mother up. You can take that so-called clan restoration law thing and shove it. I want no part of it. Kid, cried Jiraiya as he stepped forward and made his presence known. What are you doing? Don't you realize what you're being offered and how many men would kill to be in your shoes? Don't throw it away. If looks could kill, the one that Tsunade and Naruto were now giving Jiraiya would have sent the white-haired man straight to the afterlife and left no trace of him behind. This of course proved without question that Naruto was indeed Tsunade's son. The two were too much alike for them not to be, as both Senjus had the exact same look. At the same time the council members glanced at Jiraiya, who was now huddled in the corner behind them, having flashback of a previous traumas, saying he was sorry over and over again and that he would be quiet. After seeing the mightiest of the Sannin cowering in fear, large sweat drops appeared on the back of the Hokage and the council members' heads. Quickly though, the Hokage and the council turned their attention back to the two fuming Senju, who looked like they were about to blow their tops and smash some skulls. Realizing that they were only moments away from a widespread massacre, the Sandaime quickly tried to take control of the situation. Tsunade, Naruto, please calm down, there is no need for violence. The hell there isn't. You lot are trying to turn my son into Somekind of breeder. Roared the furious Senju mother. Don't tell me, you're actually with them on this, Gigi. An equally furious Naruto asked, as he looked up at his surrogate grandfather. I'm sorry Naruto, but this goes over my head. It is written in the Konoha Charter and is therefore law. Then as the newly appointed Godime Hokage, I'll change the law. Responded Tsunade angrily. She refused to let this happen without a fight. You're not Hokage yet Tsunade, spoke Danzo, gaining everyone's attention, and you will not be officially recognized as the Godime Hokage until the Jonin Council cast their votes, which will not happen until next week. Besides, added Homura, as he joined the conversation, even the Hokage does not have the power to change the Konoha Charter. At least not without a majority vote from the council, which you won't get. The Clan Restoration Act is vital in maintaining Konoha's military strength for the future. Growling angrily Tsunade then screamed, "WHO the hell wrote this fucking law?" Wanting nothing more than to wring the neck of the person who created the law. Tsunade was also angry because she knew that the reason the majority of the council voted to enact this law was because they were hoping that they could somehow arrange marriage contracts for the daughters with her son. She was also certain that other members on the council were hoping to use this law to arrange marriages with kunoichi or women that they found appropriate, allowing them to have a strong influence in the new Senju clan. That would be your grandfather the Shodai Hokage Sama, replied Koharu. What? Cried Tsunade, but before she could say anything more, Naruto suddenly yelled. Spee, that's what he meant. Turning to Naruto, Tsunade immediately gave her son a confused look, not understanding what he was talking about. Remember that talk I told you about with Hashirama Gigi? Well, during it he told me to have fun, right before I went back. That certainly sounds like the Shodai Hokage Sama, the Sandaime thought, since he was one of the few people who knew that the Shodai Hokage was in fact a closet pervert. Unaware of Naruto's near-death experience and his meeting with his deceased family in Limbo, the members of the council shared confused looks. But before anyone could ask what the blonde boy was talking about, their attention quickly turned to his mother, who let out another massive burst of killing intent and looked ready to kill as she roared, "That bastard, I'll kill him." Tsunade Sama, the Shodai Hokage Sama is already dead, said a nervous-looking civilian council member. I don't care. Someone use the Edo Tensei, and pure world reincarnation, and bring him back. I'll beat him until there's nothing left of him. Rounded the pissed-off mother. In that moment the Sandaime was again thankful that his former teacher was dead, knowing that is he was still alive. He would suffer probably the worst beating any man could ever suffer, at the hands of his own granddaughter. But still the Sandaime could not help but remain concerned for his deceased teacher, since if anyone could bring someone back to the dead, it would be Tsunade. At the same time Naruto was silently cursing his perverted ancestor and swore that the next time he met him, he would plant a chakra-enhanced punch right into the former Hokage's face. Damn you Hashirama Gigi, I so hope that Mito Abasan and Izabasan kick your ass for this, Naruto thought angrily. Before glaring at the council, I refuse. Excuse me, Homura asked, raising his right eyebrow. I refuse to go under this clan restoration thing, and be used like some kind of horse stud. Pleased to hear this, Tsunade looked up and smirked at the council, but her smirk just as quickly faded when Danzo spoke. I'm afraid that would be impossible, Naruto-san, since this is law and as a shinobi of Konoha you're obligated to follow the laws of Konoha. Even if you and Sasuke-san will refuse to marry or procreate with anyone. The Clan Restoration Act states that you would both be required to donate sperm, where the council would then select suitable candidates to implant said sperm into. The fuck you will, shouted Naruto, who was furious at the very idea, since he refused to allow his clan to be rebuilt this way, let alone his future children be born in such a manner. Naturally many of the council were shocked and slightly angered by the blonde boy's language and show of disrespect. But they wisely held their tongues, knowing that both mother and son were on the verge of completely losing it, and one wrong word could result in the two blondes going berserk. Then we'll leave, retorted Tsunade, since she refused to let her son be used by the elders and the council in one of their schemes. That would be unwise, Tsunade, especially given recent events, spoke Danzo. As you know, your son is the first natural-born Mokuton user to be born since your grandfather the Shodai Hokage-sama. That alone is a cause for great concern, especially for the other shinobi villages, who will certainly come after him, given its unique powers and abilities to restrain and control Biju, which your son has proven he can do during his fight with Kumo's Jinchuriki. Your son has also shown to be a highly gifted and skilled young shinobi, continued Danzo, given his defeat of not only Suna's Jinchuriki, but also of Hanzo's granddaughter, the Kazekige's eldest daughter and Hiyashi-sama's nephew Hyuga Neji, who is praised as a prodigy in the Hyuga clan. If you and your son left the village, the new Hokage would be forced to declare both of you nuke nins and send hunter nins after you. And with everything your son has done in both the Chunin exam finals and the invasion, he would be the target for napping or assassination. He poses too great a threat to the other villages, for them to simply ignore, especially if he were to mature further into his abilities. This means that you and your son would be wanted by all 5 major shinobi nations and the smaller nations as well, and would be constantly on the run, where you would both be eventually killed or captured. If you wish your son to survive, you'll need the protection and support of Konoha. Growling angrily, the famed slug princess glared furious at the old war hawk, who simply stared back at her and showed no emotion, although inwardly was smirking to himself, since he knew he had Tsunade now. Would this a new Senju clan be formed, one stronger than the previous one, Danzo thought. And if the boy's children there inherit his Mokuton bloodline limit, Konoha will have an entire clan of powerful shinobi capable of controlling Biju. The only problem is that the boy has been poisoned by Sarutobi's idealistic nonsense, and if he is to create a new stronger Senju clan and become the shinobi we hope he becomes, he must be purged of those foolish beliefs and come to realize the true nature of a shinobi and what it takes to protect a nation. As the elder shinobi glanced at Naruto, he knew that turning Naruto towards his way of thinking would not be easy, especially with Tsunade watching him so closely. But still Danzo was a patient man and was willing to wait for the appropriate time, knowing that it would all be worth it in the end. Damn that bastard, Tsunade thought angrily, since she knew Danzo had them. But still she wasn't ready to give up just yet, and although he couldn't change this law as of right now, she could at least minimize the damage until she could do something about it. If we do agree to this, as both Naruto's mother and head of the Senju clan, I will evaluate each and every candidate who wishes to become my son's wife. And if I do not find them acceptable, then I will reject them instantly and make sure they never go near my son again. No sooner had Tsunade said this, the blonde woman was pleased to see that several of the council members frowning, knowing she had complicated things for them. These council members of course knew that arranging a political marriage with Tsunade would be extremely difficult to say the least, which was why they had planned to have some of the daughters try and get close to Naruto and slowly seduce him. But now that Tsunade had positioned herself as overseer for all of Naruto's potential brides, she could easily use her position as both clan head and Hokage to prevent the daughters from marrying Naruto. That is your right, replied Danzo, but you should know that your son must either be married, or at the very least engaged to at least 4 different women by his 18th birthday. Given how that is the minimum, any more is entirely up to him, since there is no written limit. If he is not, then the council will take it upon itself to arrange appropriate wives or candidates. Also, continued Danzo, your son must have or be expecting at least 1 child by his 21st birthday. If not, then he will be required to donate his sperm, where the council will choose from a select group of kunoiki to find the most suitable candidates to bear his children. Fine, replied an irritated Tsunade, while at the same time thinking, I'll be damned if I ever let either happen, before glancing at her son, who simply stared at the council. Normally Naruto would have blown his top after hearing that his mother had given in to the council's demands. But he knew that she had only done it to buy time until she could do something about this law when she became the Godime Hokage. Do you have any objection in being put under the Clan Restoration Act, Uchiha Sasuke? It matters little to me, replied Sasuke, since he didn't really care either way, and if it helped him rebuild his clan later on, then he had no issue with it. Very good, said Homaru, who seemed pleased that they would have no objections from Sasuke. If that is all, we'll take our leave, said Tsunade in an irritated tone. But just as she and Naruto turned to leave the council chambers, they were stopped by Koharu, who called out to them. Stop. There is still something that you and your son need to know. What? Asked Tsunade in slightly raised voice, as she was struggling to rein in her temper and not completely demolish the Hokage mansion. During our negotiations with Suna, its council made a rather unusual offer in the hope of rebuilding their alliance with us. What sort of offer? Tsunade asked, not liking the way things were going. They offered a marriage of state between us and them. They did what? Shouted Tsunade in disbelief, since arranged marriages between shinobi villages was unheard of. Yes, and they have selected your son to be the betrothed for the one that they have selected, and we have accepted, said Koharu. The fuck you have, roared Tsunade, you're overstepping your authority. The council does not have the power to accept such offers, especially without my consent. Yes, that is true, which is why we're asking you to accept Suna's offer, answered Homura. After hearing this, Naruto looked at the Hokage's advisors as if they were mad, and couldn't believe the nerve the three shinobi elders had. You just forced us to accept a law that turns me into a human breeder, and now you're asking me to accept a marriage proposal from Suna to a girl I don't even know. To put it bluntly, yes, replied Danzo. And why exactly should I even agree to this? Asked Naruto, while his mother glared murderously at the council and was a hair's breadth away from wiping out the entire council. For peace, answered the Sandaime with remorse in his voice, knowing what he was asking of Naruto. What do you mean? Asked Tsunade, who was barely controlling her temper. Suna used several political maneuvers to arrange things in such a manner where the engagement is the cornerstone to the new treaty. If we were to refuse it, it would take several more months to renegotiations to establish a new treaty with them, and we cannot afford that. Several of the other shinobi villages are already watching us, looking for any weaknesses to exploit and could attack at any time. By reforming our alliance with Suna, the other villages would be more hesitant in attacking either of us. It is also possible, continued the Sandaime, that Suna may take offense to our refusal and reignite the war. Why do we even need Suna? I thought we were planning an alliance with Kiri. Retorted Tsunade. That will take even longer, as we have only just begun discussing terms for a new treaty, and the other villages may decide to attack us before that can happen. That is why we need to reform our alliance with Suna. It can buy us the time we need to form our new alliance with Kiri, responded the Sandaime. Once we've established our new alliances with both Kiri and Suna, we'll have a solid deteriorate against any attack from the other villages. After hearing this, Tsunade had to admit that what her former sensei was suggesting had some merits. Despite being weakened by various incidents, Kiri, Suna and Konoha were still major powers, and by forming an alliance, the three villages would make up for their individual weaknesses and pose a powerful force to anyone. In fact, only a fool would risk taking on all three villages by themselves. But still, despite understanding what her teacher was trying to do, Tsunade did not agree with the plan, especially with how it involved offering up her only son to some tramp from Suna. Suna claims that building this new alliance on the union of two people from our respected villages could help improve relations with each other and at the same time make them stronger. Since both your son and his betrothed, along with any children that they may have later on, will become a symbol of unity between us and Suna. They're also hoping that this marriage will help ease the tension and resentment that has now built up in Konoha after their invasion, said Danzo. Now normally Danzo would be all for wiping out Suna for its betrayal and attack on Konoha. But given the damage done to the village and the loss of manpower, a war with Suna would be costly, where they would be weakened even further, presenting a very tempting target for the other villages. Who would just sit back and watch the two of them fight and wait and see who won and then finish them off. How do we know that this isn't some scheme made up by Suna in the hope of stealing Naruto's Mokuton bloodline limit? Tsunade asked, knowing that this would not be the first time that one village tried to steal another's bloodline limit using underhanded means. That possibility has occurred to us, stated the Sandaime, but they have stated the Suna's candidate would live and stay in Konoha upon the marriage and become an official citizen and perhaps a shinobi of Konoha while giving up all rights in Suna. This leads us to believe that Suna's offer is genuine, or at the very least the desire for peace. When the Sandaime finished, Tsunade and Naruto could not help but feel slightly betrayed by the Sandaime for supporting this proposal. Seeing the hurt and angry looks that Tsunade and Naruto had, the Sandaime could not help but feel like trash. He did not like having to ask Naruto this, especially after he was forced to accept the clan restoration act by the shinobi elders, who blindsided them all with it. But there was little he could do, especially right now, given how he was about to retire and the elders were acting within the law. He and Tsunade had been so focused on the outer threats, like the other shinobi villages and the Akatsuki recently, that they had forgotten about the threats from within. They had of course expected something similar to this from some of the other shinobi clans, like attempting to arrange a betrothal contract for one of the daughters with Naruto and were ready for them. But they had not counted on the elders pulling a stunt like the Clan Restoration Act. Thinking back to what was happening now, Sarutobi knew that if they wanted to establish this new alliance with Suna in time and avoid a possible new war, they needed to accept the treaty. He had faced a similar decision in regards to Hyuga Hisashi after the incident with the Kumo head ninja, where to prevent war and maintain the treaty with Kumo, he had to sacrifice one of their own. But still, the Sandaime was not so eager for peace with Suna that he would simply offer up the boy he considered to be a grandson in all but blood without giving him an loophole. Naruto, I know that we are asking you a great deal, but I will ask you to at least consider it, not only for the sake of peace, but also because this is not permanent. What are you talking about? Tsunade demanded. When Suna proposed this, I argued that an arranged marriage such as this would not work if either you, the young girl they selected, or both of you were against the marriage, where it would have the opposite effect to what we hope it will achieve. So a compromise was made, where the marriage would be held off until you both were of legal age. During this time, your betrothed will become the official ambassador for Suna in Konoha, allowing for the two of you to get to know one another, while at the same time allow for better communication between both us and Suna. If by then, continued the old Hokage, the two of you or even one of you is still against the marriage, then it will be called off without affecting the treaty. After hearing this, both Tsunade and Naruto calmed down a little, but were still angry with what was being asked of them and stared coldly at the Hokage and the council. Why me? Why not Sasuke? Asked Naruto as he glanced over at the young Uchiha next to him, who had remained surprisingly quiet and watched everything play out. At the mention of his name, Sasuke raised his right eyebrow, but again remained silent, choosing to listen to the Hokage's response. The Suna Council specifically asked for you, since it seems that you made a rather large impression with them and the rest of Suna with your defeat of Sabaku no Gaara of the Sand Waterfall. Tisk, I bet, scoffed Tsunade. So Naruto-san, will you consent and agree to the marriage? He will do no such thing, roared Tsunade as she stomped her right foot on the floor, causing the building to shake a little and a large dent and number of cracks to appear. As Tsunade continued to rant to the council about how she would allow her son to be used a bargaining chip, Naruto began to think over everything that was said. He also then remembered the Sandaime parting words. To be a true shinobi of Konoha and to be a good Hokage one day, you must be willing to do things you don't want to do. And do what is best for Konoha. Being Hokage is not an easy thing. The Hokage is responsible for the safety of Konoha and everyone who lives in it, therefore you must think of the village first and yourself second. Remembering those words and the difficult decisions that both the Shodai and the Sandaime had to make when they were Hokage, Naruto knew what he had to do. I'll do it. What? Yelled Tsunade, turning and looking at her son in shock. I'll do it, repeated Naruto. You made a wise choice, Naruto-san, spoke Danzo, on behalf of the council. I'm not doing it for you or the council, rounded Naruto as he stared coldly at One-Eyed Man. I'm doing to avoid a war from breaking out. If agreeing to this thing keeps another war from breaking out, it's a small price to pay. But once I'm of age, I'm canceling everything. That is your right, Naruto, and we will not object to it, spoke the Sandaime, but before he could say anything more, Naruto spoke again. If that's all, I would like to excuse myself. Naruto, you don't have to do this, we can find another way. Tsunade cried, as she wasn't going to let the council trying and manipulate her son into doing what they wanted. It's fine, Ka-chan, like the Sandaime said, I'll end this once I'm of age, so there is no harm done, and this way at least we can avoid war and no one will have to get hurt, replied the blonde boy. This of course did not settle Tsunade. Ever since the incident with the Akatsuki, Naruto had been haunted by the images he saw when under Itachi's Tsukuyomi. She had of course eased the mental trauma of the genjutsu to the best of her abilities and even had Inoiki Yamanaka, who was an expert on the mind, seal the memories off. But even then, Tsunade knew that the damage done to her son could not be undone so easily. The Yamanaka had explained to her that even though he had sealed off the memories of the event, there was a strong possibility that Naruto would have flashbacks of the event from his psyche, since the mind was funny that way. Not long after, Inoiki was proven to be right when on more than one night, Naruto had woke up screaming from nightmares of watching everyone being killed. Other times Tsunade had found her son twisting and turning in his sleep, mumbling the names and begging Itachi to leave them alone. After the incident with the Akatsuki, Tsunade also noticed a sudden change her son's personality, especially when he saw the state Kushina was in, where he blamed himself over what happened, believing that if he had been stronger he could have done better and prevented it. Tsunade and the others had, of course, tried to convince him he was not at fault, and that the ones to blame were the Akatsuki. But Naruto would not listen to them and seemed to feel like everything that had happened was his fault. She also noticed that Naruto seemed to be more reluctant if not afraid to fight. It was as if he lost something after his battle with Itachi. During a spar with him, Tsunade had seen Naruto hesitate and freeze suddenly as if he was afraid. This was of course something that worried Tsunade, since hesitation was something that could get a shinobi killed. Damn you Itachi, Tsunade thought angrily, as she swore that the next time she saw the elder Uchiha, he'd be dead. And damn the council for using Naruto like this. Knowing that there was little she could do right now, given how Naruto had accepted the proposal, Tsunade decided to hold in her anger and frustration for later. But it did not mean she had given up, as she planned to watch the kunoichi that Suna selected closely, where if she didn't like her or if she tried anything suspicious, the Senju mother would kick the girl out of the village faster than Naruto could eat ramen, treaty or no treaty. She also planned to make sure that Suna held up their end of the deal when Naruto became of age and cancelled the marriage, and not try any other tricks to make the marriage happen. Do you know who Suna chose? Naruto asked, since if he was going through with this charade he thought he might as well know who he was betrothed to. Actually you already know her, in fact you fought her in the Chunin exam finals. Her name is Temari, the elder sister to Sabaku no Gaara. Fangirl, shouted Naruto in surprise. Yes that would be her, answered Sarutobi, while the elders and some of the council members gave him disapproving looks. The Suna council believed that she would be a fitting match for you, given how she is the daughter of the now deceased Yondaime Kazekage and your mother is to become the Godime Hokage. Upon hearing this, an annoyed Naruto began to grumble about how he should have seen this coming. After a few more minutes, the three shinobi were finally allowed to leave the council chambers, but before the large doors to the council chambers could open, Tsunade's frustration final got the better of her and she shattered the double doors with a single punch. After which the two Senju left the council chambers more annoyed and frustrated than they were when they first entered. Like his mother, Naruto was frustrated over the whole event, but managed to rein in his temper better than her, since he had decided this himself. But what irritated him the most right now was the fact that his betrothed was fangirl, i.e. Temari. Although he knew it didn't matter in the long run, since he would be calling off the engagement in about 5 years' time. It still irked him that for the next 5 years he would probably have to spend time with her, and given how she was the type that would probably hold a grudge, he knew that hanging out with her would be a barrel of fun. At the same time, the young Senju could not help but wonder what his fiancée's reaction to the news would be, if she didn't know it already. A few days later in Suna. I'm to be what? An angry female voice cried from the Kazekage's mansion. The yell was so loud that it was heard clearly halfway across Suna. Inside the Kazekage mansion was a small audience chamber which was currently occupied by the only daughter of the late Yondaime Kazekage, Temari. With her in the chamber was her brother Kankuro, in his usual all-black outfit only the hood was down and his brown hair was free, although he still had on his purple face paint. Next to him was his younger brother Gaara, who Kankuro cast a look at. The red-headed boy was stoic as ever, with the only difference being that he was currently reading a book and only looked up from it when he heard his sister's angry yell. Ever since that fight with the blonde-haired Senju, he had changed. He wasn't ready to kill at the drop of a hat. In fact, the usual terror that people normally felt around him had greatly diminished. After his return, most people expected him to be on a killing spree, filled with bloodlust and rage over his defeat at the Senju heir's hands. But amazingly, Gaara had been relatively calm and quiet, ever since they were released from Konoha and allowed to return to their village. He could also be often seen sitting by himself reading the book that Senju Naruto had given him before they left Konoha. Even more miraculously, some people said they saw Gaara smile, a small one that could barely be seen, but a smile nonetheless. Kankuro of course just couldn't figure out what happened to his brother during their time as prisoners of Konoha. Sure, it was the first and only time Gaara had been defeated, but there had to be something more to it. Gaara had for years been unstable and now he seemed to be calm and controlled. He wasn't sure what was more creepy, the old monster Gaara that would kill you if he suddenly felt like it, or this new calm and collected Gaara that you didn't know what was going on in his head and who actually smiled from time to time. He couldn't even figure out why his younger brother was so interested in the book that he was reading. He could tell he was, because this was the 6th time Gaara had read it. Gaara was rarely seen without it and kept it close to him at all times, never letting it out of his sight. From what Kankuro knew about it, the book was named The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi. It was an old book and wasn't even a very popular one from what Kankuro had heard, and yet his brother couldn't get enough of it. He kept reading it over and over again. Eventually though, the puppet user decided to let the matter go for now and enjoy the show in front of him before he missed it. They had all been called into the room by their Jonin sensei Baki. The man had looked a little nervous about something when they entered, which was odd since he was hardly the nervous type. But they soon learned why he was nervous. Apparently the Suna Council had entered into an agreement with Konoha, something about an arranged marriage to smooth things over with them. Naturally they had been surprised by the news at first. Sure, they had heard of arranged marriages between other nations and even certain shinobi clans, who were from the same village. But they had never heard of an arranged marriages between shinobi villages. But after the news sank in and as they thought about it more, an arranged marriage between Konoha and Suna did make sense, regardless of how unusual it was. It was obvious that the Suna Council was hoping to not only mend fences with Konoha, but to rebuild their alliance with their former ally, and make it stronger, as well as create a lasting peace between them. Even though it was caught off guard and was outnumbered, Konoha had won and was in better shape than their village was from what they had heard. Temari had of course asked what this had to do with them, where Baki then told her that she was the one that the council had put forth for the arranged marriage. That was when the yelling started and Kankuro started to snicker, since he knew that the only thing that came close to Gaara's temperament was his older sisters, and in some ways it was more terrifying. The tall blonde-haired girl actually looked like she wanted to reach for her large battle fan on her back and beat her sensei over the head with it and then go to the Suna Council and do the same thing to them. Temari, this is an order by the council, I had nothing to do with it. I was just told to tell you of what is going on and to help prepare you. So I get no say in this. Why the hell are they sending me anyway? She demanded. Because you are the eldest child of the Kazekage, so it's fitting that you're sent as a message that we wish to end hostilities with Konoha. You're a symbol for the village that we mean peace and want to reforge the pervious alliance and make it stronger. After hearing this, Temari grounded her teeth as she fumed. She couldn't believe this was happening to her. Of course it made a bit of sense, but that still didn't mean she had to like it. So I'm the sacrificial lamb, is that it? Not exactly, but you get the idea. Despite how we were tricked by Orochimaru, we still all went against the alliance we had with their village. We were in the wrong and we need to repair our relationship with Konoha, since both of our forces are hurting and it will take years to get back the strength we've lost. In meantime, neither of us can afford a war with each other that would invite others to put a dagger into our backs when we aren't looking. Also, it is rumored that Konoha is in talks with Kiri and preparing to form an alliance with them. If that happens before we rebuild our alliance with them, Konoha may decide to end their talks with us and leave us to defend ourselves against the other villages, and I need not tell you how vulnerable we are right now. When Temari thought about it, she knew that there were a few powers out there that would love to see either Suna or Konoha taken down. If war did break out, and even if there was a winner, that winner would be weakened further. With two of the great shinobi powers weakened, she could easily see the smaller shinobi nations attacking them, wanting to expand their borders and power. She could also see larger nations like Iwa attacking them, hoping to wipe out a couple of rivals in the deal as well. It would mean all-out war, and it was very likely that her village would be destroyed in the conflict given their weakened state. Thinking about all of this, she gripped the top of a nearby chair in frustration. As daughter to the Hokage, she had been trained in diplomacy and to think in the big picture. She could see the logic in what the council was trying to do, regardless of how unusual it was, and did love her village. The problem was, she didn't like the idea that she would have to leave her home and her family behind. Especially given how it seemed that her younger brother was slowly regaining his humanity, where he actually started having civilized conversation with them. He even seemed to be trying to win the people over. She even recently saw him helping a child get her pet cat who was stuck up a tree. She looked at her two younger brothers. With her father now dead, they were the only family she had left in the world. But if a war started, then how could she live with herself knowing that she could have stopped it? Yet by doing this, she could very likely be sentencing herself to a loveless marriage with a person she didn't even know. I hate this, she whispered to herself. Baki sighed and walked over to her and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. I know, but it's your duty to do this. This is the greatest mission that you will ever take for this village, Temari. As you know, the life of a shinobi is for their country and for their village. Our personal lives come second to them, and at times we are asked to do things of great difficulty as well. But there is some good news in this. What do you mean? The girl asked. It seems that the person who you are to be engaged to and his family are of similar minds with you. They don't agree with the idea of an arranged marriage but see the need of it for continued peace. So the Sandaime Hokage Sama decided to make a compromise. Since neither of you are of marrying age, you will both remain officially engaged until both of you are of legal age. During that time you will be given the rank of Chunin and become the official ambassador for our village and travel back and forth to Konoha. This will also allow you and your betrothed to get to know one another. In the event that either one of you or both of you do not wish to marry when you both reach legal age, the engagement will be dissolved, but the treaty will stay intact. But why would he do that, since the marriage is supposed to improve relations between us and them? Temari asked, even though she was grateful for this possible escape from the arranged marriage. She did not understand why the Sandaime Hokage would make this compromise. According to the council, the Sandaime Hokage Sama argued that the marriage is a symbol of unity, and if you and the person you're engaged to are against the marriage, then the whole point of the marriage would be nothing more than a sham and would have the opposite effect of what we are hoping for. This is why you will be given the ambassadorial position for Konoha, since not only does it allow you and your betrothed to get to know one another and possibly warm up to the idea, it will also allow for better communication and understanding between our two villages. Where it is possible, even if the marriage doesn't happen, the new alliance will still be strengthened and avoid another disaster like before. When Baki finished explaining everything, Temari took the seat she was next to and sat down, and then brought her hands to her face and went over everything she had been told in her head. After a minute or two, the Suna Kaneki spoke. Who is it that I'm to be engaged to? I do not know yet. The council said that they would tell you themselves once they have arrived, Baki answered. After hearing this, Temari leaned back into the chair and let out another long sigh. Then she began to wonder who the council had chosen for her to marry. She of course figured it had to be a shinobi from a family or a clan of high standing, since her village wouldn't let just anyone marry her. Not to mention the Sandaime Hokage had gone to great lengths to make this compromise suit not only her, but her suitor and his family. That of course meant that the person's family or clan had to have a great deal of political clout in Konoha, and she could only think of a few shinobi clans and families that had that kind of standing in the village. As Temari thought who could be her new fiancé, the blonde teen was suddenly brought out of her train of thought when she felt a hand on her shoulder. When she looked, she was surprised to see that it was Gaara, who had closed his book and put it in his side pouch. Despite the fact that his face was void of any emotion, there seemed to be a hint of something in his eyes. If he hurts you, I will kill him, he said simply. Now normally this wouldn't be anything new with Gaara, but there was a difference. Gaara killed only for himself, never for other people. By saying this, he was basically telling her, in his own strange way, that he would be looking out for her and that if whoever she was engaged to hurt her, he would be there to help and protect her. Now normally such gestures would annoy Temari, since she was a capable kunoichi who could handle herself in a fight and didn't like the idea of men always coming in to save or protect women, making women seem weak and helpless. But given how this was Gaara and how she had never known her brother to offer anything like this before, she decided to let it go, for in a strange way, she was touched by the offer. She even smiled at him, and for a moment and Gaara seemed to be pleased that he had successfully comforted his elder sister. Thank you, Gaara. Yeah, well, you're our big sister, what do you expect? Kankuro said while smiling at her, since like Gaara, if he found out that the guy that his sister was to be engaged to was hurting her in any way, he would probably pull a Sasori on him. 2. Gaara nodded. Family is important, you are important, and I will not let anyone harm those precious to me. When Gaara said this, Temari found that she couldn't speak. She didn't trust herself not to choke at his words. Gaara had not once ever said that they were precious to him. She had no idea what had changed her baby brother, but for the first time in years Gaara had acknowledged her as his sister. To the surprise of everyone, she hugged the younger boy, and to her own surprise his sand did not try to stop her. Gaara was of course shocked by the gesture, and he was trying to make sense of the feelings he was getting. The warm embrace of his sister reminded him of when he was in his sand, but this was different. This was warm, and he felt something nice growing inside of him. The closest thing that he could think of that could describe this feeling was something his uncle Yashimaru told him before he betrayed him. Could this be what Yashimaru Oji and Senju-san talked about? Could this be what it is like to care for and love someone? The Suna Jinchuriki thought. He wasn't sure what to do, but something told him to hug her back, and slowly reached up with his arms and wrapped them around his sister. The only time he could remember being hugged in his life by someone was when he was younger, by his uncle Yashimaru, and when he hugged her back it felt nice for some reason. He was still getting used to all these new emotions and feelings, since for most of his life, he had lived for only himself and loved only himself. But Naruto had showed him where real power came from, and although the Senju heir had not suffered the same kind of harshness in his life, he was like him in many ways, and yet he hadn't turned into a monster. He had beaten back the darkness, thanks to the love and support of his family, and had shown Gaara that he didn't have to live in darkness. Gaara was forever thankful for Naruto to opening his eyes to a new world, and right now he suddenly started to understand where Naruto got his strength from. He also now understood what Naruto meant when he said, when a person has something important they want to protect, that's when they can become truly strong. The feelings he had with his sister hugging him made him want to protect her and Kankuro. He would do anything to protect them, and it felt nicer than anything he had ever felt in the past. Standing only a few feet away from the two Sand siblings, Baki watched on as the two hugged one another. He was of course surprised by what had happened and could not help but smile slightly at the sight. Whatever happened to change Gaara from the time between his capture, to when he was returned to Suna, had also healed the rift in this family. Baki was of course not the only one who was touched by the scene, as Kankuro too was touched. When Temari looked over at her younger brother, she smiled and said, Kankuro, are you crying? When saw her brother rubbing his eyes and his face paint smudging. And no, of course not, real shinobi don't cry, I just got something in my ITTH hats all, Kankuro replied as he quickly rubbed his tears away so they wouldn't be seen, although this ruined his face paint even more. Before Temari could comment, the Sand siblings saw several members of the Suna Council enter the chamber, forcing Gaara and Temari to quickly let go of one another. When the council members entered the chambers, the Sand siblings immediately noticed that the Gokyodai, honored siblings, were with them. Kankuro was of course very familiar with Chio, since she was the former leader of the puppet brigade and a legend among puppet users, second only to her grandson Akasuna no Sasori, Sasori of the Red Sand. As Temari watched the council members walk towards her, the blonde-haired girl thoughts turned back onto who her fiancé would be. She figured that her fiancé would be someone close to her own age, since her sensei had stated that the marriage would wait until both were of legal age. The first possibility was the Uchiha clan heir, Uchiha Sasuke, although Temari did find him attractive and had a sort of bad boy appeal to him. Not to mention his clan helped found Konoha, which would give him a lot of clout. The problem though with Sasuke was that there was something off about the Uchiha heir. She had seen it when he fought Gaara. He was strong, there was no question about that, given how he was able to fight toe-to-toe with Gaara and defeated her with little trouble before that. But still there was some sort of darkness surrounding him, something that reminded her of Gaara, before his sudden change, and it frightened her and made her want to stay away from him. The second possibility was Hyuga Neji from the Hyuga clan, who was seemingly the nephew of the Hyuga clan head. Like Sasuke, Temari had to admit he wasn't bad looking and he was clearly strong given his fight with Senju Naruto and was from the esteemed Hyuga clan. A noble and powerful clan, who were well known and highly revered not only in Konoha, but in the rest of the shinobi world. In terms of status in Konoha, the Hyuga clan was second only to the Uchiha and Senju clans. But the thing that turned Temari off about Neji was his personality, which didn't really seem all that great. Not to mention his type of arrogance got old real fast. The third possibility was her former opponent Nara Shikamaru, who defeated her in the Chunin finals, although technically she won the match. It was only because he forfeited the match, something that still annoyed her, since she didn't like to win that way. The reason she thought he might be a candidate was because Shikamaru was the heir of the Nara clan, who were famed tacticians and used a unique brand of ninjutsu and were highly respected in Konoha. A fourth possibility was Inuzuka Kiba, son to the head of the Inuzuka clan. The Inuzuka clan was a well-respected shinobi clan, who were regarded not only as excellent trackers, but also fierce fighters, especially when working in conjunction with their canine partners. Temari remembered the boy mainly because of his fight with the Kumo Jinchuriki ni Yugito and how he was defeated by her in the preliminaries. She of course hoped that Kiba wasn't the one she was engaged to, since Kiba was a loudmouth, which was something she didn't like in a guy. The fifth possibility was Aburame Shino, heir to the Aburame clan, a renowned clan in the shinobi world, who were said to be skilled in the art of espionage and were dangerous adversaries in battle. A fact they proved when they led Konoha to a crushing victory over Iwa when the rival village attempted to invade Konoha. They even dealt a devastating blow to the Kamizuru clan, who founded Iwa and led the Iwa force in their invasion, where they lost many of their members and fell into decline. Shino had also proven himself to be a capable shinobi when he fought her brother to a draw, where both of them were left unable to continue fighting. But despite his skill and his high standing, Temari was serious hoping he wasn't her fiancé. The reason being that she had heard the stories of how the Aburame clan let bugs live inside them and she was grossed out by the mere idea of it. The sixth possibility was Akamaiki Choji, heir to the Akamaiki clan head. Although not as revered as other shinobi clans, the Akamaiki were a respected clan from Konoha, who were well known for their long-standing relationship with both the Nara and the Yamanaka clans, where they would form the famed Ino Shikacho trios, making them into formidable teams in battle. Other than that, Temari didn't really know much else about Choji. She had seen his battle with the Oto Nin Dosu and was far from impressed by him and how quickly he lost. She was also hoping he wasn't her fiancé, since she would prefer a guy who was a bit fitter or at least had a little less weight. The seventh possibility was a person she didn't know, since there were still plenty of other shinobi in Konoha who came from well-respected shinobi clans and families. The eighth and final possibility, which was also her least favorite thought, was Senju Naruto, who she had fought and lost to in the Chunin exam finals. Naruto definitely had the status and lineage since he was heir to the Senju clan, who many regarded as the strongest shinobi clan in the world during their time and were revered in Konoha. His ancestors were the first two Hokages and were the main founders of the village and trained the Sandaime Hokage, who in turn trained Naruto's mother Tsunade the Slug Princess, who was now to become the next Hokage, if the rumors she had heard were true. He was even being trained by his mother's teammate Jiraiya the Toad Sage, who had trained the Yondaime Hokage and was regarded as the strongest of the Sannin. When Temari thought about Naruto's lineage and who had trained him, she could easily understand why he was so strong. Yet even now she found it hard to believe that he had defeated her younger brother, who she had always believed was unstoppable. She was especially surprised at how he completely overpowered her brother. Even when he released Shukaku, Naruto was still able to match him, move for move, where he summoned the trademark summons of his mother Tsunade and Jiraiya, and used them to defeat the Shukaku. Despite the fact that she found Naruto to be attractive, physically wise, the main problem the Suna Kunoichi had with the spiky-haired blonde was how he got right in her face and pissed her off. Especially with that annoying nickname he called her. She was also angry over how easily Naruto had defeated her in the Chunin exam finals in front of everyone and had talked down to her. It was as if she wasn't even a challenge to him. But these were only some of the reasons why she didn't like the blonde boy, which was why she was seriously hoping that he wasn't her would-be fiancé. Not to mention the fact that she didn't know how her brother would react to such news, since after the battle, Gaara had sworn vengeance on blonde-haired Senju. Yet before they left Konoha, Gaara seemed to be almost on friendly terms with her fellow blonde, as if they had reached some sort of understanding. But whenever asked by her or Kankuro, Gaara would refuse to answer. Eventually, Temari was broken from her train of thought when she heard one of the council members speaking to her. "Good afternoon, Temari-san," spoke one of the senior council members as he faced the daughter of their late leader. "Good afternoon, honored council members," Temari replied respectfully. Since you are here, would we be correct in assuming that your sensei Baki has finished explaining the matters of your engagement to you? One of the female council members asked. Yes, and with respect, honored council members, I would like to skip the pleasantries and get to the heart of the matter, which is to know the identity of the person I am supposed to be engaged to. The young girl asked as she used the word engaged reluctantly. Of course, my dear, replied Ebizo with a small smile. The person we hope you will one day wed is Senju Naruto, heir to the Senju clan and son of the soon-to-be godime Hokage, Senju Tsunade. When Temari heard this, it took every ounce of her willpower to not scream in frustration, fuck, FFFUUCCKK. Why out of all the people in Konoha did it have to be him? Hell, even the Hyuga prick Neji or that lazy-ass Nara would have been better than that smart mouth. When Gaara and the others heard that Naruto was Temari's fiancé, both Gaara and his sensei raised their left eyebrows, while Kankuro had to fight hard not to laugh. He knew how much the blonde Konoha nin pissed off his older sister and was already beginning to pity Naruto, knowing how his sister would probably make his life with her a living hell. Either not noticing or ignoring Temari's displeasure of their choice, Ebizo continued to speak. Ignoring the boy's lineage, we believe that Senju Naruto is the perfect candidate to be your fiancé, due to his great skill and abilities as well as his bloodline limit Mokuton. The council also believes, given how you are both the children of our village's respected leaders, it will help heal some of the wounds of previous events. Not to mention both of you are highly skilled shinobi in your own right. When Ebizo finished, Temari had to bite down hard on her own tongue, so to keep from yelling out. She of course knew she shouldn't be surprised by the council's choice, since as Ebizo said, Naruto was now the son of the new Hokage and was the one who defeated Gaara in the recent failed invasion. He also had the Mokuton bloodline limit of the Shodai Hokage, the most revered bloodline limit in all of Konoha, which was said could challenge even the Uchiha clan's Sharingan bloodline limit. This of course made him the ideal candidate. She was also betting that the council was hoping that if they did go through with this marriage, that one of their children would have Naruto's bloodline limit and that the child may decide to go to live in Suna later on, or at the very least they would have close ties with Suna. Before Temari could comment on the news, the former Puppet Brigade commander Chio spoke. Also, we thought you should know, given that the boy is the last surviving male heir to his clan with no other living relatives other than his mother, who is past the childbearing age. Konoha has enacted the Clan Restoration Act on him. What law is that? Temari asked, as she had never heard of such a law and guessed it was one privy to Konoha. It's a unique law that the boy's ancestor, the Shodai Hokage, created, where in the event that a clan with a unique bloodline limit, that is vital to Konoha's defense, is on the verge of dying out with only one male heir remaining, the boy is required to either marry multiple times or impregnate multiple women so to secure the bloodline's limit's continuation. Wait, are you saying that they're giving him a harem? Temari asked in outrage at the thought of her being part of it. To put it bluntly, yes, Chio answered simply. Lucky bastard, Kankuro thought, as Naruto was basically living every guy's wet dream. Although from what we've heard, Chio continued, the boy and his mother are violently against the idea and tried refuse it, but were eventually forced to accept it, since the law requires that he either marries multiple women or he impregnates women of the council elders, choosing through other means, once he is of age. When Temari heard this, her anger and outrage lessened, although it didn't mean she had to like it. The only good thing about this whole situation was that once she and Naruto were of age they could cancel the whole marriage thing without incident. Once the council members had finished, they bid good day to Temari and left the chambers. After the council members had left, Temari sat back down in frustration so to digest the whole situation. Seeing his sister like this, Kankuro decided to get his younger brother's opinion on the matter, since he had kept quiet, as usual, throughout the entire affair. He was also curious of Gaara's opinion on the possibility that the Senju heir may one day become their brother-in-law. So Gaara, what's your take on all this? I approve, Gaara replied in a dead tone. What? Temari asked him in surprise, as she had half expected her brother be furious at the suggestion. He's a good choice, Gaara said in the same dead tone. But, after what he did? Temari asked him. She honestly didn't get this at all. Of all of them, Gaara shouldn't even like the boy after he defeated him, and she remembered Gaara swearing revenge against the blonde. But after being released from Konoha, he had been a changed person, and for him to actually accept all this, didn't make any sense to her. Not to mention that there was a chance he would marry not only her but multiple other girls. Gaara, Kankuro asked the younger in confusion. He's a good person, Gaara simply said. As for the Clan Restoration Act, although I don't approve. I understand Senju-san's situation and know he would not agree to such a ruling unless he had no other choice in the matter. Once he had finished, the red-headed genin took his book out again and began to walk away from his sensei and his siblings, leaving them just as confused as before. But before he could leave, Kankuro suddenly spoke up. Gaara, I don't get it. I remember you saying you would kill the guy the next time you saw him. But when we left Konoha, you acted like you were friends. I thought you hated him. For a minute or two, Gaara did not respond to his elder brother's question and continued to read his book. But eventually he spoke without looking from it. I did at the beginning, but during my imprisonment in Konoha he came to visit me every day to talk. What did you talk about? Baki asked with some concern, fearing that Gaara may have said something that would put their village in danger. We talked about many things. We talked about our pasts, our villages, what we had in common and what he did not have in common. We talk about what we liked and what we disliked. We spent hours just talking about anything that came to mind. And that's all you did? He didn't ask about any of our secrets or weakness? The boy's sensei asked. No, Gaara replied in a dead tone. He was not interested in anything like that. He said he only wanted to get to know me and to understand why I had so much hatred for others. That's all he did, just talk to you about different stuff and why you acted the way you did. Asked Temari in disbelief. Yes, he opened my eyes and made me realize how foolish I was being. He showed me where true strength comes from. He even gave me this book as a gift to read, saying that it inspired him in many ways. I owe him a great debt, Gaara answered. As he did indeed feel that he owed Naruto greatly, not only for making him see that he did not need to be a monster, but also for being the first person to truly be willing to try and understand him and to just talk and listen to him as a person. He was even the first person to give him a gift and to say that he wanted to be his friend, something Gaara had always believed he could never have, until recently at least. Did you talk about anything else? Baki asked. Yes, although what he told me was given in confidence and I will not betray his trust, Gaara replied, after which he excused himself from everyone and left the chambers to read his book in peace. When Gaara left, his teacher and siblings were left even more bewildered than they were before, as they weren't sure how to make of all this. They simply couldn't believe that by just talking and listening to Gaara, Naruto had somehow helped Gaara regain his humanity. As Baki and Kankuro digested all this, both of them couldn't help but wonder, just who the hell Senju Naruto was. While at the same time, the blonde-haired kunoichi near them thought, maybe you aren't as bad I thought, Senju. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.